What's up, sneaker people? It's your boy FB Kicks and Gear, and I am back with another piece of education for you guys. This time I have a pair of Jordan 1 Low OG Mochas. So this is the original Jordan 1 Low. It is a replica. I'm gonna see how much or how well I can legit check a replica pair of Jordan 1 Low OG Mochas without actually having a retail pair here. So if you're like me, you don't necessarily have, especially if you're buying authentic shoes, you might not always have something that you can use for legit checking purposes. But I do have the retail Jordan 1 OG Mocha highs. I do have the retail fragment low ones, and I have the retail reverse mochas. And there are a couple of things that all of those shoes, all of those Jordan 1 Travis Scott collab shoes share in common. So I'm gonna see what I can pull from the pairs that I have to see what we can do to one, assess how good these are, and two, find some things that we can use to legit check. You guys know that I'm all about having in hand primary examples. I think that you cannot be good at legit checking unless you know what the reps look like, and you can't be good at legit checking unless you know what the authentic pair looks like. You can't go off of pictures, in my opinion. In some cases you can, but you really got to get into it to really be able to legit check. And if you're in the replica community and you like to do QCing for other people, you got to know what you're talking about, and knowing both sides is the first way to do that. So before I pull out the other shoes, let's take a look at these and we'll go from there. Here's a quick shot of the label here. Always a fairly decent way to legit check if you know how to spot labels, so capture that. And I'm gonna take the shoes out of the box, and here they are. Jordan 1 Low OG Dark Mocha. And yeah, so I'll leave this information up on the screen a little bit, but most importantly, let's get into the shoe. So here we have the Jordan 1 Low OG Mocha. This is the rep. I do not know what batch this is, but like I said, first things I want to do is I'll give you guys a 360 so that you can get as many shots of it as possible for your own research purposes. Obviously the entire upper is nubuck with the exception of this reverse swoosh here. You've got your Cactus Jack right up here. Here's the other shoe. You got your four laces. So there's your quick 360. Just right off the bat, one of the things that I can tell you is the midsole, or the outsole I should say, is very, very solid. It's not squishy. So you know it's not one of those reps where the outsoles are super squishy. We have the Cactus C right here, touching the stitch. It's going through the stitch right here. I would generally like to see this lower, just like this, but I can't really tell you how consistent it was on the first couple of pairs. I know that, or I should say the first release, I know that it was very consistent on reverse mochas depending on size, and it was very consistent on Travis 1 Low mochas depending on size, but I have no idea what the nuances for this shoe are. So most of what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to whether or not you can legit check is going to be some of the things that they share in common. One thing I will say is that the tongue trick is not 100% on these. And what I mean by the tongue trick is that the Nike Air tag is overlapping or touching, or at least this corner here is touching the Cactus Jack. I've seen retail examples that do not have it, so it's not something that you can use, and it's not something that you should be legit checking with. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull out my authentic pairs, and we're gonna run through the gambit and see what's good, what's bad, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've got them all on screen right now, and it's actually pretty wide. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take one shoe, and that'll be what we compare it to. But we have my authentic Travis Scott 1 highs. This should match the rep lows the most, followed by my authentic reverse mochas, followed by my authentic Travis Scott One Low fragments. So I'm expecting most of the similarity to come between these two. So let me get every shoe off and we'll start taking a look at the shoes themselves. So first things first, the easiest way, in my opinion, to legit check Travis Scott 1 Jordans, if you don't have the exact pair, is to do a comparison of the outsole, or the midsole, I should say. It is this nice aged midsole. Reps tend to struggle with getting this color right. Even when, like, you can see this pair is used, it's scuffed, it's got, you know, it's got some wear on it. Even when the pair is used, they tend to struggle to get that color right. But for whatever reason, Nike has no issue matching those colors, and it doesn't matter which one it is, they always match more or less, and it doesn't change with wear. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll take a look and see if the outsole colors are correct. And I don't know how well it's coming up in the lighting, but right off the bat, I can tell you that the outsole color is definitely darker, I should say, on the rep than it is on the authentic pair. So let's take it across. It's darker than the OG highs, darker than the reverse mochas, darker than the fragment. So that's probably going to be your easiest tell, I should say. If you have an authentic pair of any of the Jordan 1 lows, pull one of those authentic pairs, match up, and you'll see. That's generally the way that's usually the easiest way that I like to legit check. If I'm ever buying a used pair or a pair that's not on authentication platform, take one of my authentic pairs, compare those, I compare those soles, and that's it. Then the next thing that I want to say that is a pretty good way to legit check if you have if you have this pair specifically, these were made to complement each other. They were made to complement each other. They were made to have very similar aspects with each other. And the one thing that I gotta say, and it's the same, it goes for the same with these as the rep highs, and you guys can see the many retail comparisons I did with this, but the nubucks on this is like I don't want to say it's a special kind of nubuck, but it's not a nubuck that you see very often on Jordan 1 highs, on Jordan 1s in general. And this is a soft, thick cut, super supple nubuck, and you can see it like in the grain. And I gotta say, even though the colors look pretty good, I'd say this is just a little bit lighter. Even though the colors look pretty good, they do not feel the same. This is a shorter, stiffer nubuck. The grain is definitely not the same there. This could probably look a lot better if you do the whole brushing plus mink oil trick, and it'll help it a lot. But right off the bat, if you're talking about legit checking, definitely not the same. And they should be very close. I want to say that with the lows, they tended to be a little bit shorter haired than the highs, but they definitely feel different. And I would say these feel a lot more in line with the reverse mochas than they do with the original highs, and they shouldn't. So that is something that you guys should pay attention to. I will say that with some brushing and some mink oil, you can make these look really good. You'll have a lot of motion, you'll have a lot of ashiness, but it just will not match an authentic pair 1-to-1. So keep that in mind. Another thing that I have noticed about this specifically, and it's not something that matches everything else, is like with the reps, the black nubuck is always way too clean looking, right? It's not the authentic pairs. Maybe it's because they use like a longer haired nubuck, and it was a little bit more textured. It just had a slight fade to it that the reps just look like they're super clean, right out of the factory, freshest nubuck that they could find. So that's just something that I'm looking at, but definitely something that you can use for legit checking purposes, I would say. So it's the nubuck, right? Pretty much it's the nubuck. And if we're talking about from a legit checking perspective, if you have this you should be able to legit check these perfectly. If you had these two, it might be a little bit harder, but the midsole is all you need to be able to clear one versus the other. Now, I will say that these aren't the darkest midsole that I've ever seen in my life. These are on the lighter end from what I've seen, but still it's a shade, just a shade off from the authentic pairs, just like most of the case. But other than that, I will say that overall, really solid shoe. Really solid shoe. I would say that if I'm gonna rank the pairs that I have like right here in front of me, this will be number 1, the OG. This will be number 2, and these two will be tied for number 3. And it's a toss-up either way. I still love this, but the 1800 that these are going for right now is a lot. But this is definitely for the people that don't want to spend $1,800. This is a solid option. It's got toe boxes a little bit on the thicker side, and not in the way that you'd want to see on Jordan 1 lows. The material comes a little bit too up top on the tongue, and the toe should be a little bit more bulgy, but still not bad. Presentation wise, this looks good. It looks really good. You can make this motion pop up even more, as I said, if you want to go through that route. But if you just want to throw these on, nobody's going to call you out in these anyway. Take a look at the embroidery. Obviously, I say in every Jordan 1 low Travis Scott video that I do that it is shit on the retail pairs and it is shit on the reps, and that's just the way they're supposed to be. Cactus Jack, nice and thick. This is just a little bit higher than I'd like to see, but that varies anyway. I'm not too concerned about that. But other than that, these probably get a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Pretty much par for the course. And this is on the higher end from what you would see. I don't think it's going to get better than this on the market. They're not supposed to look good, so don't be hypercritical on that. Other than that, it's just boilerplate Jordan 1 low Travis Scott. They're more or less the same from that perspective. Thick cut leather here on the reverse swoosh, positioned pretty well. Yeah, I'd say it's positioned pretty well, and it's definitely not better than this in the highs either. So yeah, take that for what it is, guys. Solid shoe. I will leave information on here, and yeah, guys, just take this, use your QCs, use it for your legit checking, and stay safe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.